Welcome to the WrestleTalk News. I'm Pete Quinnell. Last night was the AEW Dynamite Grand Slam 2023 edition from Arthur Ashe, where there were some pretty huge matches on display. It felt like a mini pay-per-view. However, with the big stakes came some unfortunate injuries. Jon Moxley put his International Championship on the line against Rey Fenix, and in what became the finish of the match, Fenix delivered a pile driver to Mox, which current speculation points to the move where Mox got hurt, landing too much on his head. Fenix would pin Mox, with Mox not kicking out, but the referee still calling a 2 count, so Fenix hit the same move again, this time for a 3 count, and winning the title. Speculation currently says that this was an audible from Moxley to have Fenix win, with Fightful Select confirming that the finish of the match was altered. They also note that Mox left under his own power, was checked on by multiple people, and repeatedly communicated to people that he was okay. PW Insider is reporting that the belief backstage was that Mox suffered a concussion, but this is unconfirmed as of right now. Best wishes to Mox. I hope you get better soon. But that wasn't the only injury on last night's show, as during the MJF and Samoa Joe title match, Adam Cole ran down to support his friend. In doing so, he jumped off the stage to the floor before taking a spill and then being around for the rest of the match with a noticeable limp. Fightful Select is reporting that Cole was in obvious pain backstage and was taken to hospital after the show. He has since reportedly left the hospital, but on crutches. The severity of this injury isn't known as of the time of writing. Best wishes to Adam Cole. I hope you get better soon. Both of these injuries come at devastating times for both men, with Moxley just starting up his international title reign and Cole in the midst of the supremely hot MJF partnership in and around the main event scene. Spare a thought for both of them in the comments, and fingers crossed, both injuries are minor and can be recovered from quickly. Godspeed, gents. In other news, WWE has terminated the working relationship with Panini, the company responsible for trading cards and stickers, due to a reported breach of contract. This comes from Darren Rovell, a sports business reporter for Action Network, who reports that the contract with Panini had 2+ years left on the deal, and WWE are actively working to shift the rights over to Fanatics immediately, who were due to get the rights starting in 2026. More details on this are sure to come to light soon, so stay tuned to WrestleTalk.com for more. And in Vince McMahon news, there's always some of that. There's more details on the employee meeting held the other day, headed up by Vince and Ari Emanuel. In addition to receiving eye rolls from those in attendance because Vince said that WWE was stagnating and this merger was the only logical next step, something that is provably false by WWE's own admittance, Vince also reportedly commented that he wasn't receiving enough applause by his employees, even saying, "I'm Vince McMahon, damn it," according to PW Insider, before following that up with, "This is where you're supposed to clap." Gross! Vince was also reportedly using a cane to walk, still recovering from his back surgery, but don't worry, he doesn't think he's on the way out anytime soon. As Kurt Angle recently mentioned on his appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience, a conversation that he shared with Vince after Kurt came back to the company. "When I came back to WWE, he said, 'I'm gonna have this company for a lot longer than you think, Mr. Angle. I'm 73 right now. My mom lived to be 101. I'm planning on living till I'm 120. I'm never letting the company go. I'm always gonna be working here. They're gonna have to pry it from my cold, dead hands.'" Horrifying stuff that in no way makes me feel absolutely dead inside. There is so much more news today, like Elimination Chamber being announced for Australia, Sheamus' WWE contract going on the ever-increasing pile of ones that expire in 2024, a potential date for another AEW pay-per-view this year, and so much more. There's a lot happening right now. Hey, guys, look, let's take it down a notch, shall we? Wrestling news can be so crazy sometimes. I think it's time we just chilled out for a second, because it's time for a message from this video's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Now, you've probably heard about them before. It's the super in-depth mobile RPG game, hundreds of champions to collect, but you never guess what though, there's a new rarity of champion coming out in the game. Yeah, it's a step above legendary, it's actually mythical. What do mythical champions do? Well, they're basically 2 champions in one, because they can metamorph between 2 different forms, like this.
I'm 80s Wrestler Turbo Jake, and just like mythical champions, I've unlocked a new form, a new powers, a new skills. Just look what I can do now. Ah! See? Mythical champions are powerful. Ah! They're the most versatile champions ever, perfectly suited and tailored to your playstyle. Both forms use the same artifacts, accessories, masteries, and blessings, so be careful how you use them. Summon new mythical champions from brand new red primal shards in the portal. And for new players, you can get your hands on Stag Knight, as well as a skin for Stag Knight designed by JonTron, using the code JTSkin before October 7th. It's that easy. And if you're not a new player, you can still get Stag Knight through an in-game event. And there's a new legendary champion too! Raids take on the Monkey King from Chinese legend Sumu Kong! All you gotta do is log in on 7 different days between now and October 23rd, and he's yours! With all this exciting news, use the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen now to get crazy bonuses when you download the game, like Epic Champion Drake, and other useful things like energy refills, skill tome, and an XP booster! So download Raid today, and...
Raid?
Well, that sure was something. Anyway, it's Thursday, you know what that means. Ollie is on holiday, so I'm reviewing AEW Dynamite Grand Slam Edition in about 5 minutes. One of the big criticisms of AEW over the last year is one of excess. Last year's All Out has become infamous in online discourse because it had a whopping 15 matches on the card, meaning that not everything was given time to breathe or get over. And that is the only thing that people talk about from that show. But this year's Grand Slam almost felt like an NXT takeover event. Just 5 matches, all of which were given time to get over and tell their stories. And it resulted in an excellent episode of professional wrestling with one half-decent Chris Jericho match. And an unfortunate finish to the Mox match. Oh, and they didn't book that Edge debut that I'd fancy booked in my head, which must mean that Tony Khan is a bad booker or something. Get me on Twitter to tell him that. But apart from that, Grand Slam was excellent, and it kicked off in the most spectacular of ways. Eddie Kingston is perhaps the most compelling character in all of pro wrestling right now. He always is and always has been. He just often isn't given the platform in AEW to show that off. He has his moments, sure, but then is sometimes just gone for a bit, or the focus of his story is shifted to someone else. But when he comes back, when he is on TV, it's breathtaking. You see, no one told Eddie that pro wrestling isn't real, so he just thinks it's real. And because he thinks it's real, he makes me believe that pro wrestling is real. And that was on full display here as his long-standing real-life issues with Claudio Castagnoli finally came to a conclusion for both the ROH World Championship and the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship. This feud hasn't been perfect from a TV standpoint, but the final few weeks were exceptional. And this match more than matched up to that brilliant build. Ian Riccaboni on commentary summed it up perfectly. It's a handicap match as Eddie takes on Claudio and himself. Tony Schiavone added Claudio loves wrestling and he hates Eddie Kingston. These lines were the right amount of salt and pepper seasoning to this delicious meal of a match, which saw Eddie kick out of the Ricola bomb, hit a series of backfists and a powerbomb of his own to get the win. The crowd lost their collective minds as New York's own Eddie not only won the ROH Championship, but also beat his inner turmoil and hatred for Claudio. As Ian shouted out the names that have held this belt before, like Xavier, Loki, Homicide, Jay Briscoe, as well as AEW names like Bryan Danielson, Claudio finally shook the hand of Kingston and showed him the respect Eddie felt he never got. This was beautiful, emotional, and perfect. And in only that way that pro wrestling can be. The broadcast then cut to Roderick Strong in a very fake-looking hospital having get-well-soon cards read to him by the Kingdom. I love how silly wrestling is. Adam Cole finally showed Roddy some care for his neck health by arriving late to the hospital and then left almost immediately because he needed to be in Max's corner for tonight. What a terrible friend. Christian Cage challenged Darby to a handicap match, I mean triple threat match on Collision for the TNT Championship with himself and Luchasaurus. I wonder if this is where Cage will actually win the TNT title for realties. And while Eddie and Claudio was just about perfect, we next had the Jericho match. Look, I like Chris Jericho. I'm a fan of Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is the first bit of WWE merchandise I ever bought when I went to a Raw taping in 2008. Go and watch my partsFUNknown list about my favorite wrestlers of all time. He made that list. But there's something about his AEW stories that sometimes don't click, and this is one of them. He and Sammy had a good match, but the crowd's lack of reaction to it is indicative of how little people are into the story going in. You can do all the top rope cutters you want, but this New York crowd were not invested in Jericho versus Sammy. The finish was superb though, as Sammy went for a shooting star press and Jericho countered with a perfectly timed codebreaker for the win. In a nice little touch, Sami wore the same colors that Jericho wore in his WrestleMania match with Shawn Michaels, and just like that match, Sami turned heel afterwards with a low blow, and Jericho did that same HBK sell for it. Don Callis came down to reveal that Sami has joined the family, and they left together. Right, so here's the problem. Jericho was happily going to join Don's group before Callis revealed it was a trap. Jericho had decided to abandon his friends in the Autobots and join Megatron in the Decepticons. This is why the JAS broke up, because Jericho broke them up by wanting to side with the baddies. And now I'm supposed to feel sympathy for Jericho that Sami has instead joined the baddies, the same baddies that Jericho wanted to join? Chris, I love you. And I love you, Don Callis. And I'm indifferent on you, Sammy Guevara. But this ain't working. MJF and Cole were about to do their catchphrase earlier in the day, but Cole was called back to the hospital by Roddy, which meant that Max was going to have to go into the main event alone. Jon Moxley and Rey Fenix got off to a shaky start in their International Championship match when it looked like Mox got rocked when Fenix did a big dive onto him before the match began. But they brought it back around with a good story of Fenix trying to do flip-de-doos and Moxley punching him in the mouth. But the finish saw Fenix hit a pile driver, the ref counted 2, Mox did not kick out for the 3. Phoenix did the move again, and the ref counted the 3. As Pete detailed earlier, Mox called an audible because he got hurt. A potential concussion. So get well soon, Mox. And it's a shame, but I hope that maybe Phoenix can get something out of this. My only concern is that, and we've seen this in the past, TK doesn't respond well to his plans changing, so let's hope he can actually pivot here for a change and give Phoenix a decent run with the belt. Saraya retained the Women's Championship over Toni Storm and her excellent new black and white presentation entrance, and the crowd was super into Storm's new character, which has gotten over to a spectacular degree. Shame Saraya won then. She used her usual heel shenanigans and hit a second rope rampage for the win. It was okay, but the story of the Outcast split has only been so-so. And the main event saw MJF retain the AEW World Championship over Samoa Joe in an excellent main event. MJF was wrestling's best heel and is now wrestling's best babyface. He might be a perfect wrestler, and this New York crowd were happy to shower him with that praise. Adam Cole returned from his second trip to the hospital after Max had kicked out of a muscle buster and a pile driver on the concrete floor, and he encouraged MJF to escape the Coquina clutch. He then also distracted enough to allow Max to choke out Joe with some tape behind the referee's back for the win. This match was so great, and I totally bought the muscle buster near fall at the end. I really thought that was the end of Max's run as champ. Joe, in a show of respect, also shook Max's hand after the match. That was an excellent 2 hours of wrestling. The Chris Jericho match in the middle. AEW Grand Slam is a big 4 out of 5. Now go and watch our latest list on partsFUNknown, which counts down the greatest rivals of Shawn Michaels. Maybe Jericho will make that list. List joke.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels NXT has been equal parts excellent matches and utter nonsense, as seen by Dijak whipping a tree. But that makes sense considering who is putting these shows together. Michael Shawn Hickenbottom is considered by many